We have the showdown of Florida as the Jacksonville Jaguars are taking on the Miami Dolphins. This is your Week 1 2024 prediction and preview video. Hit subscribe if you're new. Also hit the like button. Let's start off with the home team, the Miami Dolphins. Last season, this was a team that was atop of the AFC. Then they started to deal with injuries and everything fell off the tracks. They would go into the NFL playoffs and they would be one and done against the Kansas City Chiefs. When I look at the Miami Dolphins, they are a very good regular season team, but they're dealing with a lot of injuries right now, more so on the defensive end than the offensive end. And that's where I want to start with the Miami Dolphins. Their defense is beat up. They're dealing with injuries that happened from last season. Bradley Chubb is at least going to miss the first 4 games of the regular season. He's still recovering from that torn ACL that he suffered from last season. And we have to remember this is his second time suffering a torn ACL in the NFL. Jalen Phillips will be on the snap count. He tore his Achilles last season against the New York Jets. This is a pass rush situation that I'm not a big fan of. 2 of your best pass rushers are out for this game. And you look at Jalen Phillips, how many snaps are he going to be able to go out there and play for you? When I look at the Dolphins defense, you bring in a brand new defensive coordinator as well. You bring in Anthony Weaver. They fire Vic Fangio. He's now the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. The players, they weren't the biggest fans of Coach Vic, but early on, their defense did look better. If we go back to that first season, when Coach McDaniel became the head coach, their defense wasn't their strong suit. Their offense had to go out there and carry them over the hump. And I think that's what's going to happen for the first couple of games of this brand new regular season. You do have some good players on the defensive side of things. Jalen Ramsey, he's questionable to play in this game. Hopefully he can play. You're going to have to find a way to go out there and generate a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence. The Jacksonville Jaguars were 8-3 last season before they started to deal with major injuries, just like the Miami Dolphins. So this is not just a pushover Jacksonville Jaguars team. This is also another team that's at the top of the AFC with the Dolphins. I'm concerned about their defense. It's going to be very interesting to see what Anthony Weaver does against the offense of the Jacksonville Jaguars. But you have to get pressure on Trevor Lawrence, and you have to find a way to go out there and stop those fast receivers from getting behind you. Gabe Davis is not the fastest wide receiver on the team, but you have guys like Brian Thomas Jr. who can give you a lot of problems going deep, especially if Jalen Ramsey is not going to be able to play in this game. You do have Kendall Fuller, who is a very good veteran to have. I like him a lot. You also have Javon Holland as well. He's a very good safety. And you bring in Jordan Poyer. He may not be the same Jordan Poyer that he was a couple of years ago with the Buffalo Bills, but this is still a very good football player in that secondary. He's a veteran, and he can stick with some of the top tight ends in the NFL still, especially in goal line situations. So I like the defense. They're just beat up. I really wish the Dolphins were healthy on the defensive end. With that being said, this is still going to be a close football game regardless. When you look at the offense of the Miami Dolphins, it's ridiculous. They're stacked from top to bottom. The offensive line is a question mark, but Tua Tagovailoa just lost weight, and he had more mobility in training camp from losing that weight. Now, part of it was this. A couple of years ago, he was dealing with concussion issues, and he did not want to get tossed around as much. That's why he gained some weight. But when I look at this offensive line, you have guys like Austin Jackson. He's going to have to step up big in this game. You're going to be going against guys like Josh Allen and going against guys like Travon Walker. The first point of emphasis is try to establish the run game. Before Devon Achane got injured with his knee injury, the man was averaging 10 yards a carry. Video game-like numbers. And you have Raheem Mostert as well, who just led the league in rushing touchdowns last season. You have 2 very good running backs that could catch the football at the backfield, and they could kill you with the sideline-to-sideline speed. They can't depend on their defense in this game because of the lack of pass rush. Granted, you drafted Chop Robinson in the first round, but I don't think that he can go out there and dominate week 1. Hopefully, I am wrong because I want to see the Dolphins make a deep run. The same with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe both of those teams got screwed due to injuries and just misfortune. But when I look at this offense, they have all the key pieces to go out there and put over 30 points on the Jacksonville Jaguars because the Jaguars dealt with some problems as well last season. I'll touch more on that in the next couple of minutes. You obviously have Tyreek Hill. Get him the football as much as possible. One of the best wide receivers in the game. Jalen Waddle is a very good wide receiver as well. And you also bring in Jonnu Smith. This was one of my favorite signings that went under the radar for this free agency period. Jonnu Smith was a very good tight end for the Tennessee Titans many years ago. His career went off the tracks when he went to join the New England Patriots. He wasn't a bad football player there. They did not know how to use him. Have you seen the wide receivers and the tight ends besides Hunter Henry with the Patriots as of late? Jonnu Smith is a vertical threat. He's going to get a lot of one-on-one opportunities with linebackers and safeties. And he was a solid tight end for the Atlanta Falcons last season as well. I like this addition because now you give Tua Tagovailoa a safety blanket at the tight end spot, something this offense has not had since Coach McDaniel became the head coach. And we saw what this offense looked like before he was here and before they made the trade to go get Tyreek Hill. So offensively, they're stacked. The offensive line, they do still give me some concern, but Tua Tagovailoa can get the football out quick. He's a very accurate quarterback. He's going to go out there. He's going to try to ball out. This game may follow the same formula like how last year's game went when the Miami Dolphins went against the Los Angeles Chargers. It was a complete shootout, and the defense started to make plays late in the game. But we're going to see what Anthony Weaver can do, and he is coming over from the Baltimore Ravens. Coach Vic did not blitz as much until the last couple of games of the regular season because they did not have much pass rush on their own. We'll see what Anthony Weaver can do. You also no longer have Christian Wilkins as well. He is now with the Las Vegas Raiders, and he was one of the best defensive linemen with this team. You bring in Calais Campbell. He can play defensive tackle. He can play defensive end. We'll see what the Dolphins can do. But you have to generate a lot of pressure on Trevor Lawrence to stop that run and do whatever it takes to make sure those wide receivers and Evan Ingram do not get behind you. Far as the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I mentioned earlier, this was a very good football team. They went out there. They were 8-3 until they started to deal with injuries. Trevor Lawrence has suffered an ankle injury against the Cincinnati Bengals on the Monday Night Football game. And that really sucked. He did not miss much time, but when he came back, he was not the same player. The accuracy was not the same. He was gimpy on that ankle. Now he's fully healthy. Trevor Lawrence is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And he just got paid a massive contract extension just like Tua Tagovailoa. The one thing that makes me concerned with Trevor Lawrence are the turnovers. And last season, it wasn't his fault. They dealt with a lot of drop passes. They dealt with a lot of missed red zone opportunities. I go back to last year's game against the Kansas City Chiefs. The receivers could not come down with the football in the red zone. They'll come down with one foot out of bounds, the other foot inbounds. They'll just drop passes. Calvin Ridley was a key wide receiver, but it took some time to get him integrated in the system. I now look at the wide receivers. Gabe Davis, solid veteran to have. Christian Kirk missed time last season. He was dealing with injuries towards the end of the season. He's a very good safety blanket to have with Trevor Lawrence. We saw what he was able to do a year ago when he signed that contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They went to the NFL playoffs. They were one catch away from possibly beating the Kansas City Chiefs in that game. You have Evan Ingram. Last season wasn't his best season, but he's still a freakish tight end to have. And you have to think that Press Taylor's going to go out there and coach for his job for his upcoming season because of how bad things went last season. You do want to go out there and protect Trevor Lawrence as much as possible, but that shouldn't be a problem because of the injuries with the Miami Dolphins. You bring in Mitch Morse at the center position, a very good veteran center to have. He is still a very good guy to have in the middle of your offense. The reason why the Bills cut him was because of contract concerns and because of the cap issue with Von Miller. It was because Mitch Morse is just a bad player. He's washed up. He's going to give you a lot up front, and it opens up that run game for Travis Etienne, who is a very good running back and can do it all for you. One of the better running backs in the NFL. I like Cam Robinson at the left tackle position. Anton Harrison at the right tackle position. From tackle to tackle, they're solid. And Trevor Lawrence, you give him enough time, he's going to go out there. He's going to dice up any defense in the NFL. But when I look at the wide receivers and I see what they have, they're going to be good. They're going to be okay. It just comes down to situational football. And that's what hurt them last season. The lack of halftime adjustments. Players not catching the football when they needed to. Miscommunication between the offensive line and Trevor Lawrence. You clean all that up in training camp. You clean all that up in practice. Hopefully Doug Peterson has went in and he's done that. Don't let last year's record fool you. If Trevor Lawrence never got injured, this team would have went into the NFL playoffs. I really do believe that. When I look at the defense, they also have a brand new defensive coordinator as well. It's going to be very interesting to see what their brand new defensive coordinator can do. Because their defense last season, it wasn't terrible, but it did not live up to the standard that was set the year before. Ryan Nielsen is a guy that's going to try to come in and help out this secondary. Before I get into the front seven, they just paid Tyson Campbell a lot of money. And a lot of people had a lot of negative things to say. Tyson Campbell was not a very good cornerback last season, but he was playing injured. The year before that, he was a superstar at that position. And I still think that he can be a very good player. He wasn't the only player that regressed on the defensive side of things, especially in the secondary. You bring in Darnell Savage as well, a good tackler, can make plays in space. I like him. You also have Ronald Darby, a good veteran cornerback to have. They did cut Darius Williams. Darius Williams was a very good, solid corner. We'll see if they're going to miss him in that secondary. But Tyson Campbell is the true number one by far. And he has to go out there and he has to prove it in this game. I would not match him up on Tyreek Hill in single coverage. That's how you get beat. That's what the Chargers did last season. And how many times did those corners get beat over and over again? You can play off, but you have to be careful with the way that you do it. This is when you get into talks about the front seven having to have a major impact in this game. I'm looking at Josh Allen. I'm looking at Travon Walker as well. Two very good defensive ends last season. Put a lot of pressure on Tua Tagovailoa. He's not the most mobile quarterback in the NFL. Generate as much pressure as possible. Do not let these wide receivers get behind you. A lot of people say that Tua doesn't have throw power. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He doesn't have a top 5 to top 10 arm, but he can get the football there. And that's what makes things scary. And the linebackers are going to have to be on their P's and Q's as well. You'll see a lot of delay runs and a lot of motion with the Miami Dolphins, to where Coach McDaniel will have Jalen Waddle running back and forth behind the line of scrimmage. And they'll fake the play to him. And next thing you know, Raheem Mostert is on a toss play and he's cutting the edge. And at that point, you're at his mercy because of the speed that he has. And the same with Devon Achane as well. Watch out for the motion plays and watch out for the run game as a whole. Because the Dolphins are a different type of football team. They will go out there and use the passes up their run. And then after halftime, the next thing you know, they're just trying to run the football over and over again. They're trying to get some cheap plays, and then they'll work into play action. Next thing you know, Tyreek Hill is over your head for a 50-yard deep bomb touchdown. That's usually how things worked last season before they were dealing with major injuries. And they even got the Philadelphia Eagles with that last season as well. The Dolphins aren't the most physical team, but when I look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, they are more physical than the Dolphins. And maybe you can beat them in that aspect. If you can, you're going to be golden. But this is going to be a high-scoring affair. This is going to be a very good football game, and I'm excited to see this game. With that being said, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars winning this game 35-28. I think it's going to be a complete shootout. I think due to the injuries of the Miami Dolphins on the defensive side of the ball, they're just not going to be able to keep up. Maybe I could be wrong. They can go out there. They can score a lot of points. But I can easily see the Jacksonville Jaguars trying to play time possession, trying to take advantage of the lack of pass rush, and maybe trying to run the football more with their running back in ETN. But we'll see. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have winning this game, the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Miami Dolphins? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, we want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.